Hello, this is Brian.
And this is Stephanie.
Welcome to the making and the remaking of a codependent mind.
We're going to revisit a topic that we covered, I think it was season 3, called Caretaking. But we wanted to do it again in the context of the relationship toolkit. So to kind of give it the full tool treatment. And this is going to be the last tool in the toolkit that we're going to be discussing.
And the reason for that is because we are finally done with the book we've been working on for the last year, our second book, which is called Me, You, and Us, Moving Beyond Relational Trauma and Disorder to Build a Stable, Lasting Relationship.
So the first book, which was titled the same as the podcast, The Making and the Remaking of a Codependent Mind, that covered pretty much the first 2 seasons of the podcast. There's a lot more in the book than was in those seasons, but it was kind of that making and remaking part of your story that's covered in the first book.
Yes, and so this one, it's kind of picks up where that leaves off, but also at the same time, it is really as a standalone book so it goes into a new way of navigating relationships for those of us with a history of being relationally disordered and no real frame of reference on what healthy functional relationships look like or feel like.
And we do move away from many of the labels that we use in the first book, like codependency, for instance, that's the big one, and focus more on the behaviors themselves. Although we've always talked about codependency as a collection of behaviors, but we lean into that even more when we really just focus on the behaviors and the effects that they have and have had in your life and what it can look like and what it can feel like to behave differently.
And the way we do that is kind of the way we've been doing this season, which is this relationship toolkit, where we talk about the various tools, many of which, well, pretty much all of which I used back in the days of my dysfunctional codependent behaviors, but I was just using them incorrectly or with the wrong people or for the wrong reasons. And so this toolkit is showing how we use these very normal human behaviors differently.
We've been saying all the way through this season, and then it's reflected in the book, what we're interested in is a functional account of these tools, in that we want to know how they can function to produce the outcomes that we want. So what's the work we're setting out to achieve? And then what are the outcomes when we use those tools to do that work? So what's going to happen after this season is the same as when we release the first book, is that we will release the audio version of the book, 1 chapter every 2 weeks. When we release the complete audio version of the book on the podcast, then we'll take most of the chapters down and it will be available for purchase. But hopefully the paperback and the ebook version will be available on Amazon in a few weeks.
If anyone's interested in being an advanced reader, you can go to our website at codependentmind.com and sign up for that.
So the advanced reader meaning we would send you a free copy of the book in advance of its release with the request that you would leave a review at some point indicating what you thought of the book. So yes, you can go to our website and sign up for that if you're interested.
Right. So again, this is our last normal episode. So with that aside, we will return to the topic at hand here, which is caretaking as a relationship tool.
And just to recap things that I believe we said in the previous episode on caretaking is that we want to remind ourselves and each other that we are biologically and psychologically wired to respond to the needs of others, especially those that we care about. And that making people feel comfortable, making them feel loved, supported, cared for, can be a deeply satisfying and pleasurable experience. And we don't want to pathologize that. There's nothing wrong with, in fact, it's perfectly normal and healthy to want to care for people and to feel pleasure and satisfaction in doing so.
Yeah, I mean, it's really one of the things that made our species survive and thrive was that instinct. The fact that we worked as a group, as a pack, as a village, to take care of each other.
Yes. So species level, these instincts seem to have helped us survive and thrive. But on a relationship level, on an intimate relationship, like all the tools we've talked about in this season, we're interested, again, what the outcome is, how it's used, and what the outcome is. So caretaking can be either productive or destructive.
And then we also like to talk about the type of relationship work that it does. Those three pieces that we talk about: the knowledge and understanding, the staying connected, or the strengthening the partnership. And this one in particular is great for strengthening the partnership.
I think it's important to note here, because this is something I kind of struggled with, is that we want to explore the ways in which caretaking strengthens the partnership, not necessarily the relationship. Because I think if we say, oh, it strengthens the relationship, it can strengthen negative relationships as well.
Right. Sure.
So we want a caretaking that is not attachment driven, in that we don't want the motivations for caring for someone to be because if you don't deliver that care, then you lose the relationship.
And that's more threat-based, right? I mean, that's performing care because you feel like you have to, like it's some kind of obligation.
And that's, part of what we talked about in the previous episode, but just to kind of recap there, that's the kind of caretaking that you grew up doing.
Yes.
Starting with your parents and then your friendship with G, and then obviously through your previous marriages.
Yes, because I was just a little kid and these behaviors are pretty much expected of me. They were kind of forced on me by the way my parents couldn't really regulate their emotions. So I felt as though I had to step in and behave a certain way so that my dad would just stop being angry and my mom would take care of me. And if I didn't do that, then they wouldn't. At least that's what my system detected.
We've talked about how your dad's anger felt like a threat to you, as did your mom's negativity and her emotional withdrawal. Those felt like threats. And when you stepped in and performed caretaking, whether that was trying to soothe your father or console your mother, then that would reliably neutralize that threat. And
it worked. I mean, because it consistently worked, I found. And I did this in so many different ways. So these were inauthentic behaviors a lot of the times because I was just trying to figure out what I needed to do. Sometimes it would be a lie. I would just do whatever I thought I needed to do to manage this person's emotion. And
they weren't inauthentic because you didn't care about your parents. Right. Obviously you did.
Yes.
But the immediate motivation was to neutralize the threatening parts of their behavior.
Yeah. So the difference would be instead of saying, my dad's angry, I wonder why he's angry, I'm going to ask him. It's, my dad's angry. Oh my God, I need to do something really quickly here so he's not angry anymore. That's it. I just want him to not be angry because it's scary.
Absolutely.
So I don't really care why he's angry, what he's talking about even. It doesn't matter.
But then you take those relationships into adult, intimate relationships, and you're still seeing other people's emotions or need for care as a threat that has to be neutralized.
Right. I get the same sort of triggering feeling where I'm afraid of it. So I see anything. I didn't really necessarily understand emotions all that much. We've talked about that plenty in this podcast. If something was just negative in some way, it felt like an expectation, and it felt like some scary thing that I had to diffuse, just like it was my dad being angry when I was 3.
And in your relationships with your narcissistic partners, again, that caretaking behavior worked. It reliably neutralized their threatening behaviors.
And my goal was to stabilize the relationship in the same way as I tried to do with my parents and with that early friend that we talked about, stabilize the relationships. And yeah, it worked. I stabilized the relationships.
Which is, again, why I wanted to emphasize that we want to use caretaking not to strengthen any particular relationship, but to strengthen the sense of partnership within a functional relationship. The results of a strong sense of partnership being that both people feel like they're cared for, that they can rely on each other, that they have each other's back, right, and that they're there for each other. So that's a strong partnership. That's not attachment based. That's not, I have to maintain this attachment regardless.
So for one thing, the caretaking was one-sided in that I wasn't receiving care back most of the time. I was being abused a lot of the time. But also my care was not any sort of strengthening any sort of partnership either, because there was no partnership. Like you said, I was making them feel safe or making them feel understood, but at a cost, because I didn't actually believe these things myself. I didn't believe I had a strong partnership.
You did get some pleasure and satisfaction from the caretaking behaviors.
Yes, right. And that's one of the things caretaking can do, because it was sort of mimicking caretaking. It wasn't genuine caretaking, but I was doing behaviors that resembled genuine caretaking, and it was received often as genuine caretaking. So it would feel good when it was.
When the performance was well received.
Yes, exactly, right. And then I would be given a positive performance review with phrases like, you're a kind person, and things like that. Like that was kind of the takeaway from both of those relationships, was that, I was a kind person. But
you also had resentment as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of a mess, actually.
Yeah, it was. I know. Well, that's the thing. It's not, so yeah, it feels good to an extent. It feels good when the performance review is good, but in between, it feels terrible, right?
Because you're doing a lot of caretaking in both of those relationships.
Yeah. The first of the two relationships with R, at least she was doing like household stuff, like cooking and things like that. So it wasn't like, there was some balance. But I don't know if you would even call that caretaking, really. It's just like two people doing things that they would do for themselves, but another person's benefiting from it. Or, is that really caretaking? Yeah.
It doesn't seem an expression of care, particularly.
No, I mean, I didn't really receive it that way,
It sounds like you almost received it as a negative.
Yeah, well, I did. Well, because there was, she would tell me on a regular basis that she wished that I did this stuff and that I initiated these things and that I wanted to do these things. But then, so I would feel compelled to, and then I would, and then it would be criticized. And it's wrong. No, it's not how you do it. So it just was not, it was always a kind of a tense atmosphere, this exchange of care. But with both of them, I was very much doing emotional management, mostly. The type of emotional management where, this person's upset, and I'm trying to do everything I can to make them not upset. And then I succeed when they're not upset. That's basically how the system worked for me.
And again, you often got good performance reviews in that they felt cared for.
Yes. Yeah. And this isn't something, I know they felt cared for because they both said it on a regular basis, including during the divorce. Like, oh, you were such a kind person. Like, all right. I don't think I was, actually, because I was lying the whole time. Not that I knew that. Obviously, I didn't really know that until we did all this work. But this performance, this emotional management, that I was constantly lying to get them to not be angry and to accept my performance.
That was caretaking delivered in a situation where you didn't genuinely care for someone and you felt obligated. So, not surprisingly, that's not a productive use of the caretaking tool. It doesn't produce a relationship in which both people feel they're on the same team and they can rely on each other.
And it was destructive because I was sustaining a relationship that I didn't actually want to be sustaining.
And so then you get in a relationship with me, who you do care about, and kind of surprised to find that the same behaviors that were getting you good performance reviews and you were being told you were a kind person, they didn't work so well with me. Even though, again, you cared for me.
Right, because a lot of the caretaking that I did, I wasn't actually good at genuine, useful partnership building caretaking. Like that, I was kind of lost. we have examples of times when you actually legitimately needed caretaking, and got triggered and didn't know how to behave and felt shame and felt judged. And the caretaking I did was you would get what I perceived to be angry, and I'm trying to diffuse it. Your anger or your upset, your emotions were not the same as the emotions I was used to, because the emotions I was used to with those previous partners were about control and domination. And when I capitulated, then it did work. And they thought I was kind and that I was on their team and all these kind of things. But that's not what you were looking for.
No, yeah. And like you said, even when I asked for genuine care, like say, even when I was sick and I was kind of like, I need some care, you seem very thrown, because I think, I mean, now in retrospect, it makes more sense. Like you were just used to explicit instructions.
Yes, exactly. Right.
And consequences if they were not followed.
And they were usually pretty predictable and pretty consistent.
But I certainly didn't want you to do something you didn't want to do. I just wanted an expression of care from you.
Yeah, and I just didn't know how to do that because, for one thing, I really had a hard time. We did an episode on this in this season, was empathy. I had a really hard time actually tuning in to you and what you might have been feeling. Because I was so backwards the way I looked at it. I was starting from a place of, what I was used to is my empathy, in quotes, was just trying to read your emotions and figure out how I was implicated in it. That's just hypervigilance. It's not empathy. So that's where my caretaking was coming from, was just, I'm waiting for you. You seem upset. You're going to give me some kind of expectation here. What do I need to do to meet that expectation, no matter what, as quickly as possible, so that you're no longer upset? But like, yeah, if you're not giving me, you're sick and you're just like, well, I hope that he cares enough about me to do something here. And I'm just like kind of sitting there frozen.
Express that in some way, right? But you see, now I have to perform it. But the flip side of that is you also have a lot of difficulty receiving care.
That's true, right?
Probably for much the same reason, is you just were not aware of that kind of emotionally driven caring. It was much more performance driven. Yeah,
I mean, I was used to not receiving it, for one thing. So I didn't really feel worthy of receiving it. It just made me kind of nervous.
I think because too, also you were wondering, well, what do I need to do? Like, how do you perform in the reception of care? Like that me giving you care placed some sort of expectation on you, implicated you somehow.
Right. And I think sometimes it just like almost gave me shame sometimes. Yeah, so I needed to learn how to receive care just as much as I needed to learn how to tune into when you needed care. Emotional caretaking, physical caretaking, all that stuff was just so skewed for me. It was all pretty foreign.
You felt most comfortable in the role of the person giving care. That had been your assigned role in your previous relationships. And again, you would get good performance reviews or bad performance reviews. But being the person receiving care, you were not comfortable with that role. But again, what we're looking for here is a genuine caretaking that's not only connected to feelings of genuine care, because you did care for me, but also to the outcome of strengthening that sense of partnership, not just making sure the other person feels cared for.
And it's not just about making sure they feel cared for. It's being able to recognize what someone actually might need. I mean, that's, again, why it needs to come from a place of empathy also, So it's not just coming from a place of, I care about this person and I have these set of things that I'm used to doing, like combining our budgets and taking over the finances, or just like a series of tasks or something that I was used to performing. So I'm trying to put this together. I'm trying to put together the fact that I care for you and the fact that I have these series of tasks, but I'm not really thinking about you. I'm not really paying attention to you. And you could be either not communicating this and maybe I need to do a little more digging and figure it out, or you could be communicating it to me also, and I'm maybe just not even listening. Because that is important that we ask for what we need sometimes too. I mean, that's part of caretaking, is to not always just kind of hope the other person always can figure it out.
Yes, although you do mention paying attention, and that's one way to really express care. We talked about that in, for instance, in Curiosity, is when you are performing this kind of caretaking script, doing these tasks that you just think what taking care of someone means, then that actually can have the effect of not feeling cared for because you're just performing this role. Right.
I mean, this actually kind of reminds me of our discussion in a previous episode about the 5 love languages. Like, say, I figured out that you like gifts or whatever. Like, I'll just buy you a gift. There we go. Like, am I really actually thinking about what you need, or in this particular instance, or am I just going, oh, she wants a gift, so I'll get her a gift? But it's kind of a similar thing. Just like, oh, I'll do something nice. I mean, I remember doing this. I used to do this in those previous dysfunctional relationships when the anger didn't go away quick enough. I'd try to find other ways to be nice or something, like, oh, I'm going to go just kind of, well, this tense atmosphere, I'm just going to go clean the kitchen or something. Like, maybe that'll do it. Like, I'll just do something that I think will maybe ease the tension somehow. Like, that's caretaking.
Well, it's interesting too, because we have professions that are caretaking professions, in that is people's job is to take care of other people, which is great. And that's good for all of us that are people willing to do those jobs, but it's still a job. You don't have a relationship with that person. And at the end of the day, you go home. But that's how you were kind of treating caretaking in relationships. Like, this was a job that you had to do, and you had to do well.
Yeah, that's true. But for me, it was even worse because I was actually not even getting any sort of reward most of the time, other than just positive feedback every now and then. But I wasn't getting paid for it. And usually I was getting abused in between. So that's not a great job.
No. But what I wanted from you and what we have together is caretaking that is, again, motivated from actual feelings of care and connection, and results in this kind of mutuality where we both feel like we're going to receive the care that we need in the way that we need it from each other.
It's not the same thing as, say, us sitting down and deciding what chores each of us will do when we're trying to have this tit for tat list of I care about this and you care about that, therefore we're balanced. It's just a feeling. It's a feeling that we can rely on each other, that we feel as though the other person actually cares about us and is going to do something useful and helpful when we need them to. And it's because they love us.
It's not an obligation.
Yeah, it's not a contract.
It's not also an issue of power control. So it's not about them wanting to feel a certain way. It's about this mutuality that comes out of taking care of each other.
Caring because you care about the person, and you care about the partnership, like you said. So we just wanted to end on this because it's a really important tool that's tied to empathy. This is actually even a chapter in the book. And
we might have done better in the book, now that I think about it.
That's probably true.
But
yeah,
again, it'll be out in a couple of weeks, and we're really excited about it. And we hope that it's going to be helpful to some of you who are maybe still struggling to kind of understand the path forward into a healthier, happier future.
Right, because it's one thing to understand these behaviors and another thing to make that transition into actually behaving differently. And we hope that this book can really help with that. And thanks as always for listening. This season's been a real pleasure for both of us, and we've learned a lot, and we appreciate you sharing that journey with us. Yes, thank you so much.